Yeah, the blue flash happened to me 3 times, and it was all between ages of, I would say I was 9 to 12 years old, almost 13. The first time was in Toronto. Lived in an apartment building on the 9th floor. And I lived with my mom. She was a single mom. And my uncle was living there at the time. His name was Rick. He was sleeping in my room because it was only a 2-bedroom apartment. So I woke up one night and I could see that it looked like the stereo was left on. We had one of those old big silver massive stereo receivers with the big blue dial on it. So I went down the hallway to go turn it off, and when I got towards the end of the hallway, looked to the left where the stereo is, which is also where the balcony was. We also had a couch there in between the balcony, so that you had the couch, the stereo, the balcony. When I looked around the corner, the stereo was on, and there was something sitting with its back against the couch, and it had a bald head, a little bit of a point on top. Had looked like 3 or 4 fingers holding up the earmuff headphones, the big old 70s style, but just one on top of its head, on about the side of its head. The stereo, it seemed like that blue light in the stereo went super bright, like blinding bright. Never seen anything like it before, like similar to like a lightning strike or a arc flash from a welder. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. And when I saw it just slightly move and could hear weird staticky sounds on the headphones, I went down to my mom's room. She was in bed. I woke her up to go take a look. And she went to go look. The stereo was left on. And this is probably January or February, very cold, 9th floor, windy. The interior door was wide open, and the screen door to the balcony didn't have a window on it, was open. So she closed it all up and told me not to worry about it, that it was just my uncle. Must have had a couple of drinks, left the stereo on, left the door open. He must have went out for a cigarette. So the next morning, we get up, having breakfast, and my mom gave her brother trouble for leaving the door open. He swore that he did not do that. And I said, Mom, see, I saw something. I did talk to her about this a couple of years ago, and she didn't know what to think of it. She said, well, maybe someone was just, what do you call that? A balcony hopping. And I went, Mom, 9th floor in the wintertime? I don't think anyone's doing that. She's like, well, you saw what you saw, right? So it was probably about a year or so after that, the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind came on television for the first time. Never seen it. And it got to the end part where the aliens come out of the ship, and I booked it. I was out of there. I'm like, nope. Because the heads kind of looked the same, and the long, elongated fingers looked the same. So yeah, it's a great movie, but I have a real hard time still this day with that ending, because the way it kind of creeps me out. So, yeah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Excellent. So we're the Wet Loffers from the Mount Forest area. It's my wife Mary. We got 2 kids. Lived here a good part of our lives in the area.
Much,
yeah, and we got this strange man in the living room today because we got a little story to share about a UFO experience that we had.
Before this UFO thing happened, what were your opinions on UFOs?
For me, I was just like, I wasn't really into it. I wasn't really believing in UFOs or anything like that. That was...
Same here. I guess I believed in that there's something out there in the universe, just whether it visited here on Earth, I had no idea. So not really a huge believer until the evening that we had our experience, and that kind of changed everything on how I think about things and what the possibilities are out there now. We were going through a little bit of a rough time at the time, so we were living at our in-laws in Mount Forest on Perth Street. We were traveling down Perth Street West at the time on our way back home, I guess to say. Oh no, sorry, we were traveling down Sligo Road. Sligo
yes.
Road west, traveling down there.
Yes.
On our way down Sligo, and just coming up to a factory that's just down the street from us right now. And my wife looked over, and
Sure enough, I saw a bright light actually just stopped and went around this antenna. Like it knew it was a antenna, and it just like backed up, went around, and then pretty much like it felt like if someone was chasing us.
she's like, Joe, some great big, huge, like glowing ball just stopped and went around an antenna. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, Mary. I looked over and there was nothing there. I thought maybe she was having a little bit of a meltdown or something. I didn't know what was going on. So when I looked over, there was nothing there. Mary's trying to explain to me what she saw. And we started coming down the street a little bit further to turn on the Perth Street.
Turn the corner,
And as soon as we turned on the Perth Street, it was there again. It just came flying at us out of nowhere. It was flying so fast. It was so bright. And
it looked like it was going to hit our car. I'm like, oh my God, duck down.
yeah, we actually ducked inside the car. We thought it was actually going to hit us, and then it just stopped. And right before the hydro lines, and then it flew off kind of towards the direction that it came from. It just went back to again, a little bit more maybe to the west of the same direction that came from. But so obviously now I knew exactly what she was talking about, and I had no explanation for what we just saw. I was completely stumped, and in fact I was a little bit scared because it came so close to the car that I had no idea what we were actually looking at. When we got back to the laneway, Mary had her phone out, she gave it to me, and I just looked up to the sky hoping that it would come back so we could catch another glimpse of it, and sure enough it did. It was pretty exciting stuff.
So, I guess as we were coming back down Sligo here, we're just driving. Like I was just looking at it, I'm like, okay, that looked really weird. How that light was just going around the antenna or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. Not thinking anything of it. Told Joe about it. As we were coming down Perth Street, the street here, then it looked like it was following us. And then as we were getting closer to the house, it got closer and closer. And then, yeah, I was just like, oh my God, like it was just like attacking us. So I was like scared. I'm like, what's coming after us?
And Mary might have been able to track it a little bit more with her eyes. I was driving and also kind of scared, I guess, in a sense, because I didn't know what I just seen. But my object was get to the house as quickly as possible so I could park the car and get out of the car so I could look again to see what it was that we saw. So to me, it just kind of came at us and then just disappeared again, where Mary was able to maybe follow for a couple extra seconds or whatever.
Well, actually, when it came to the car, then after it just like, I swear, it came to the car and then it just vanished. It just zoomed.
So quickly that it just disappeared off in the distance, and it went so quickly that it literally looked like a star up in the sky.
Yeah. Like right here.
Yeah, we parked here, and then I kind of stood here somewhere in this general area here, and I had the phone out that Mary gave me, and I just kind of was looking up at the sky, looking around, and then I saw it was coming somewhat from over in that direction.
Yeah.
And then it just
but then as we were coming down here, it followed us from the factory over there all the way over here, and then it looked like it was going to attack our car right here.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. It just kind of, but it happened so quickly. Like it seemed like it seemed like it took a few moments, but it was over just like that.
Yeah. Then it stopped and just ran.
It was definitely one of the things. And when you look down the street, all the photos that we have, none of these houses look like the photos that we had. You can see the street lights that are on this street and whatnot. And all of it, just, you can tell it's the location, but we can't explain what it is that is up in the sky in the one spot. And that's what we saw coming flying at us that day.
So when I took the photo, I didn't even aim the camera. I just saw something that looked like a star up in the sky, but it had that same color of the glow. And then all of a sudden it started moving really quickly, and then next thing I know, again, it was right in front of me, right before the hydro lines, and I didn't aim the camera, I just started snapping pictures. Probably got about a dozen pictures, got 3 of them that actually caught something. Still don't know what we're looking at, but it was really unique to what we saw in the pictures. Wasn't the same thing that we kind of seen with our own eyes. We just saw a glowing ball. Now we had some type of shape to go with it. So that was the really interesting part of that, was actually seeing and being able to study what we just saw, but still having no idea what was that we really did see.
So when that happened, did you like jump out of your car and just run towards the house, or?
Pretty much. I took Mary's phone, I got it, and I was just kind of stared up to the sky, looking around, looking for this weird orange glowing light that we had just seen. And then I could spot just a speck way up in the sky what looked like the same color. And then all of a sudden it was basically right in front of my face again.
Was it the same one? Was it the second one?
Yeah, there had to be at least 2 or 3 of them that came flying towards us. They'd go back in the same direction they came from. They'd go off in a different direction altogether. Just no explanation.
Now it's like we're searching for UFOs. Any little different lights in the sky or anything. Yeah, just
Taking a real interest to astronomy, and not necessarily with the stars though. Always looking up there, and it has been really interesting because we have started learning a lot of neat things about our universe and the stars and whatnot. So we're always looking at those now too, but really we're always looking for UFOs.
Now we are, yes.
I didn't think too much about it. I was a young kid, probably, being told, oh, you must have been dreaming, stuff like that. Flash forward to about a year later, the next winter, I'm in Jerseyville outside of Brantford. My aunt and uncle lived out there, and my cousins lived out there. And one of our favorite things to do, me and my one cousin, is to go out and build a snow fort. We would go out into the ditch where all the snow was piled up, and we'd dig a tunnel. We'd start, it's kind of like a race. He would start about 8 feet away from me, and we'd work our way into an arc. So the object was to meet in the middle, see who can get there first. So we had our supper, went outside, started digging, and we got maybe about 10 minutes into the fort digging. A blue flash happened. Neither one of us know what happened when the blue flash went off. So when we woke up, we were laying in the snow on our backs with our feet almost touching each other. And we both sat up at the exact same time. Looked at each other and panicked and ran into the house. We told my aunt that, we saw a bright flash, and we woke up. She said, well, I was just about to call for you boys. Been out there for 3 hours. We'd only been out there for, in our minds, 10, 15 minutes. We didn't know what to think. So she wrote it off as, maybe a snowplow had went by and we saw the blue light of a snowplow. But we were also told never to play in the snow when there's snow on the road, that the plows might come by. So that didn't make much sense. The next morning, my uncle said that there was some kind of power outage in Jerseyville, like something wrong with the electrical or car crash or something. And I still thought, well, how would the electricity going through the hydro lines pick 2 boys up at about 100 pounds each and move them and place them perfectly in the culvert? We kind of let it go because my aunt and uncle were fairly religious, so maybe they thought something bad happened and an angel saved us. Maybe. I don't know. And we were just kind of told, just let it go. So flash forward from that to my grandmother passed away, and I was with my wife. We went to the celebration of life, and I was talking to that cousin that I was with. And I asked him, I said, hey, cuz, do you remember the blue flash? And he said, yep, and I don't like talking about it. He, to this day, does not want to talk about it because it might trigger bad memories. But yet again, bright blue flash. Suppressed, held it down, thought nothing of it, carried on with life. Life got really interesting after that. my dad was in a rock band, and they had a good album come out, and some money came in, so we decided to move to Nassau, Bahamas in 1984. I started going to school there. We lived there for 2 years, and it was the last year that I was there. It was probably a few months before we left, actually. I had a friend, Miles, who lived in the condo just down the hill from me a little bit. It was a complex with, going up the hill, so each side had a home at about 5 levels and then 3 at the top. We lived at one of the 3 at the top. So me and Miles, we got together. We played all the time. We'd go hang out on the beach, camp overnight, stuff like that. Just kids having fun, Now, there was a function for our school, and a lot of parents had to go, probably because it was like some kind of parent-teacher night or something like that. So Miles's mom, Patricia, she got had a babysitter come over who was a few years older than me, so probably about 15. Her name was Jen. Her sister Anastasia was there. Her friend Catherine was there. There was a whole bunch of us there. There was probably about, in total, 8 kids, but a couple of them were infant, toddler. They were already in bed. We were playing. Boys were supposed to kind of stay away from the girls because they didn't want any of that 12, 13-year-old stuff, happening. So they had a spare room. You had to walk down a fairly long hallway. It had a bathroom on one side, and then the guest room, it would be. It had a nice big king-size bed in it and its own little access out to the pool area and whatnot. So we were trying to figure out what to do. We were getting kind of bored of the babysitter just having it on MTV all the time. The girls said, hey, why don't we play the Ouija board? Because there was a Ouija board in the games room. They had a closet full of games. None of the girls wanted to play. They weren't allowed to come into the room. So it was me and the boys. There was me, Miles, Scott, and Mark. So the 4 of us started playing on a Ouija board. And didn't think of, we were like, this isn't working. Someone's pulling it, blah, 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 right? And then it started to actually feel a little more like, no one's guiding this thing. And we started to communicate with something. We asked if it was a boy or a girl, and it started spelling out M-A-N. Okay. It got to a point where I think it was Mark asked, are you good or bad? So it started to spell out the word evil. And once it got to the end of the evil at the L, I have a hard time talking about this part just because it's pretty traumatic. So the Ouija board flew up into the air. All of our hands came off immediately, and a blue flame. We were on a bed, a big king-size bed, and this blue flash came out of the bed right where the Ouija board was. And a flame shot almost up to the ceiling. Just a very small cylinder, almost like a welding torch had gone awry. And I immediately lost my mind. I went running out of there, down the hall, into the bedroom or into the bathroom that was in the hall, crying because I'm this blue flash. How did it find me here? Because I thought, I'm not in Canada anymore. The babysitter had a glass of 7-Up or something, some kind of cola or whatever, and she went and doused the fire out, because it was still smoldering on the mattress. I left. I went back to my house. My friend Mark came with me because he could tell I was very upset. And so I never touched a Ouija board after that. We got in trouble. We were accused of smoking. None of us smoked. We were all too young. None of us liked cigarettes. Even the babysitter said no. They were playing on a Ouija board, and something happened. So it was kind of like a blame game. It must have been, somebody did something with a lighter or a firecracker, something like that. We didn't have any firecrackers there either. Something that wasn't a real regular thing to find in the Bahamas, back in the '84. So I never went back to their place again after that. Patricia, the mom, eventually came over and talked to me and apologized, thinking that, we did something wrong, because her son just kept saying, "No, Mom, this thing happened to us, and it scared all of us. Like, everyone was freaked out. Like, no one went back into that room again that night, and
Actually, I kind of took up a little bit of a night job after that experience, and I stayed up pretty much all night. I'd sleep in the backyard. I had a patio lawn chair out there, and I'd just recline it, and I just stared up the sky, just hoping to see it again just one more time. And it wasn't that long afterwards we saw something again, and it was a little bit more during the daylight, which was really also interesting.
Was it a few days?
Just a few days later. It was in the evening, and I was here, I just walked out on the back deck, and for some reason something made me look up, probably because we were so interested in wanting to see this again, and there was something directly above our
And then
house.
you came in and you told me about it, so I went out. And
Yeah, I'm like,
that's-
Mary, there's something right above the house.
So I came out of this door. This little awning thing wasn't here, and I looked up. For some reason, I just looked up and I saw this great big huge object above the house. I immediately turned around and ran inside, and I'm like, there's something just above our house.
And then I came out and I looked, and all of a sudden I just looked up. Like, it was like right there, just a triangle thing, and with the light, and it just like flashed. So
It flashed so bright that I could see the flash inside the house.
and it seemed like I said to Joe, I'm like, hey, it is like they took a picture.
So I
But-
rushed outside of the house as Mary's yelling this. We're basically yelling like, I just seen something above the house. It just took my picture. So I run outside, and the thing is so far up in the air that I can't tell what it is anymore.
And of course, not thinking, the first thing you think of flash, you think it's a picture taken of you or something, right? So, yeah, it was one of those things you just didn't think. First thing I thought about was like, oh, they took a picture. Why would someone, like,
When really I think it was a flash of it just picking itself up and going straight up in the air.
could be.
Because it was still directly above the house, just so far up in the sky that you just couldn't even make out the shape of it anymore. It was so high up there and so fast again.
But that's when I saw it was like a triangle shape, I guess.
And then when I went outside, it was so far up in the sky, I couldn't tell really what it was anymore.
It seemed like it was just above the house, like just above the roof. Like it seemed so close. It was unbelievable. It was just like, oh my god, I can't explain this. Like, oh my god, am I going crazy? Like at this time I was pregnant and stuff like that. So I'm like, is pregnancy getting to my brain or what?
And we're both seeing the same thing, right? So it's not one of us has gone crazy. Maybe both of us went crazy. I don't know, but we both saw it. And then we just kept on seeing more and more. There was more events to come after that one. So that was a really interesting thing. Staying up all night outside in the backyard, seeing something just over by our sportsplex location. It wasn't at the sportsplex, but in the distance of that, what looked like a star just suddenly bouncing like a yo-yo and then just disappeared. And I was like, what did I just see? I wasn't really sure. But after these other couple experiences, it made you really question of, was that it returning again and just doing something different? So that was another experience that we had shortly after that.
Don't recall any time loss.
so.
The photos that I took that evening, the times all are pretty consecutive from one picture to the next picture. No time loss. When the flash thing happened, there's other people other than the house. Mary's parents were here. None of us recall any type of odd thing where we're thinking, oh, maybe I lost some time or gained some time. Everything seemed pretty normal that way.
Our son was due on that date that he was supposed to be, so.
I didn't talk about it probably for about 3 years. We had some great pictures. I didn't really want to share them with anybody because I didn't really know what my pictures exactly were of.
Crazy.
Yeah, I didn't want people thinking that I was crazy. Really had no idea what we saw. So obviously it was unidentifiable. So I reached out to a UFO investigator, the MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. Sent them all my information, the story, the pictures, and their job is to debunk, try to figure out, is it natural or is it something unexplained? And they came back that they could not explain or debunk the photos or the stories. So we definitely did see something. Mary and I both know we saw something, and the pictures we still can't explain to this day. There's not a house down our street that looks similar to what the pictures are, and it's just one of those things that have left us wondering after all these years. 13 years later, the image is still burnt in our minds of what we saw that night, and still no explanation. It was really bright. It was extremely bright, so bright that you couldn't see the exact shape of anything else. But in the photos, you can see the orange glowing ball that we've seen, and you can take some type of shape to the rest of whatever it was that we were looking at. I've seen something similar. Actually, I believe it was in Star Trek, in one of their little things. It's like, hey, it kind of looks something like that. But again, it happened so quickly that night that it was really hard to tell exactly what we seen.
Right, and
Really.
like the triangle thing I saw, it looks something like, going back to Star Trek, like the ship they had or something like that. It was almost like that, just different. Like, I guess more triangle, I guess.
Yeah, you hear all kinds of the stories of the black triangle, the 3 red lights on each corner of the triangle, usually a dark triangle. This was our first time ever experiencing something like that. We didn't see any lights on the corners of it.
No.
It was just basically a blackish triangle that Mary saw. When I
The
saw it,
flash, like the light right in the center, and just flashed at me. So.
and when I saw it, I couldn't actually make out the shape of what I was looking at. It was too close, but by the time I came in and told Mary, it must have either gone just up a little bit more so she could see the shape, because it was so close to me I couldn't tell what the shape of it was.
First of all, I was actually embarrassed to actually say anything, because I was worried that, well, people were thinking like, oh my God, like, you're crazy. Like, there's no UFOs. Like, what are you talking about?
Only your husband's crazy.
you know?
No.
But once I told them, they're like, oh, that's really neat and awesome. And then just told my story, and yeah, they're like, oh, that's really cool. And that was pretty much it for me.
So with my experience, just with my circle of friends at that time, I was actually just getting out of addiction. So going into my recovery period, so I had a lot of jokes of, you know, well, that must have been some really good stuff that night, that type of thing, right? Which was, I kind of expected that humor, the non-believers, people saying it was a street light or something else that we've seen. But we can tell by looking at the photos, we can see street lights with the actual object and totally different colors, different objects. So definitely not. And I know what I saw, and having my wife here see the exact same thing at the same time, it doesn't really matter what other people really think of it, because we know that we saw something. So
The second one that we saw when we came out, that Mary thought maybe it took her picture because of the bright flash, it was basically right above the
I'm
house.
pretty sure, yeah, it was like right above the house. Like it was like just above the rooftop.
I remember walking out the door, and I don't know why I looked up. Something just got my attention, and I looked up, and it was right there. And it's only a 1-story bungalow. Like, it was really close to the roof.
Yeah.
there's always going to be non-believers. I used to be one of those people that would be a non-believer and try to debunk it myself, saying it must be this or it must be that. But when you're there and you actually see these things and how fast they're going, or that was the situation for us, was the speed of it, the zero sound, being able to stop so suddenly, go back from the same direction that it came from at hyper speeds. That's when it was so
just
real
the
for us.
antenna over the factory there just stopped and turned around or went around. It was just like, wow, like what does that? Like, you know, except for when you're driving on a road, but yeah, nothing can really explain how they know it's antenna and then back up.
And for myself, like the first few years, I didn't talk about it at all. And then I wanted to get it investigated because I wanted to know what I was looking at that night. So that's why I reached out to the MUFON. I think it was after I got the response that they couldn't figure out, then I started to feel more comfortable being able to talk about it. So through conversations of people saying something that they may have experienced, I throw in my own little story of like, this is what I experienced. And I now have some documentation to back up my story that this has been sent out, it's been investigated. Nobody could figure out exactly what we saw that night.
Yeah, the orange glowing ball that I seen, the ball, or the orange glowing thing, whatever it was, looked to be about the size of a car. And then when I look at the picture that we have, you can see a little bit of structure above that orange glow. and it looks to be a little bit bigger than that orange ball. So I would say in general, probably be about the size of a car and a half, 2 cars.
And same with the triangle shape that I saw too. It was pretty much about the same size of a car.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few. Yeah, I've talked to a few people that have had UFO experiences, but not from this area. So more or less online, talking, reaching out, following a couple of different social media groups that are to do with UFOs and to see what their experiences were. And there's some similar stories out there of the same thing that we saw.
Was there anything that you thought you were doing that attracted these things to your area or anything like that?
Our car.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We thought maybe our car, every time we seem to have one of these experiences, the car that we were driving, which was an anniversary 1999 Mustang, it seemed every time that we were around our car during that short period, that's when we would see these. It was just, seemed like it was following us, whatever it was.
And then since we parked the car in the shed, we have not seen.
Yeah, we
Anything
still
from
own the car.
Yeah.
It's been parked in a dry shed now
But not
for probably about
visible.
10 years now. We haven't seen anything since. There was one other time we went to Niagara Falls.
Yes.
Again with that same
Went
vehicle.
camping. Yeah, went
Yeah,
camping.
when camping, worst storm that I've probably actually been in, for the wind, the rain, the stop signs were literally like bouncing back and forth with the wind. It was so windy, and we were camping in this campground and
In a tent.
in a tent
of
in our
course.
vehicle, kind of trying to get the best shelter we could. And we peeked outside at the storm, and there, you know how sometimes you can see the moon through the clouds. It kind of opens the clouds for the moon, and you can kind of see the moon. It was extremely cloudy with this storm, but there was this opening, and there was an object.
It was an object with the light, a light. Like,
Yeah, it was
it's
the
not a
weirdest thing.
star. It was not a star.
And it was moving with the clouds. It was something that we just couldn't explain again. Definitely wasn't a plane, wasn't a helicopter, and whatever it was, why are you flying with this huge storm with these high winds and lightning and all this other stuff? Again, something that we just
And
couldn't
it
explain.
was just like hovering. It wasn't moving. Like, it was moving, but probably very slow. But it was just hovering. Like, just stayed in one spot, kind of moved slowly, but didn't move much. And then after that, it just disappeared again.
Right on.
Definitely some interesting experiences since the very first time of seeing the orange glowing ball, as I like to kind of describe it to people. We don't really know, was it a ball or was it just a flat round surface that we were looking at from underneath, but definitely looked like a ball spear type thing that was glowing. And ever since that evening that we saw that, that's when we started to believe a little bit more in the UFOs and anything's possible out there.
So in the corner of the house there is my mother-in-law's bedroom window. And while all this was going on, one morning she's like, last night I saw some flashing lights out in the back.
Bright light
So-
in the backyard.
Yeah, so we got some field in the backyard here, and apparently she saw a bright light. It had flashing lights. She didn't know what it was. She didn't want to look out. She was kind of, because of
She
our
was
story,
scared.
she was a little scared to look out the window herself because
Yeah.
she didn't want to be shocked to see something. She didn't know what was really there, but it wasn't just us that maybe seen something odd. Even your mom
Yeah.
mentioned that. Yeah, I saw some weird flashing bright lights out in the
Yeah.
backyard, and
And she never seen it since.
yeah, it was just that one period
Yeah.
at one time.
It was like that month maybe.
Made me always think since then, okay, so we were playing on a Ouija board, but I still saw the same blue flash. So are aliens connected in some way to paranormal activity like ghosts or spirits? Or, you know, are they playing tricks with us? You know, is this what's going on? Yet again, it was just something I let go and I buried it and didn't really talk about it too much for fear of, you know, people casting judgment of mental stability or stuff like that. So, you know, flash forward to being an adult, living in Kitchener-Waterloo. I've seen more stuff in the skies that I can't explain. Our cousins around the corner have seen the same stuff. I've had parties over here where we're sitting around a fire and see strange things in the sky. Not balloons, not drones, not planes, not helicopters, just unexplained stuff. It's As a matter of fact, I believe Kitchener was the most sightings for UFO activity in Canada or North America back in 2018, I want to say, 2017, around there. So at least some people are still looking up to see it, because a lot of people have got their faces down like this or staring at screens and missing some of the wonders of the universe that could be right around the corner from them. The only time I get triggered by any of this would probably be if I was to walk in somewhere and there's welding going on and you see that bright arc flash go off. Lightning doesn't do it to me, you know, but there's times where I get triggered a little bit. Nothing major. It just brings back those memories again. So, yeah, I can't really explain what they are, but I don't fear them anymore. I think I'm glad I had them. It opened my eyes up to, you know, there's definitely more than just us floating around in the universe. There's got to be something else out there. You know, to not think that, you just kind of putting yourself in a box, right? Like, some people have suggested hypnosis, to try hypnosis and see if that can bring back any of the more clearer parts of those events. That I'm kind of skeptical on. I don't think I want to know any more than I already do. I don't want to find out that I might have been abducted and experimented on and all that fun stuff. That might be too much. Actually, there was a movie back in the 90s called Fire in the Sky. I made it through the movie, but it was hard. I had a girlfriend with me at the time, and she could tell how much I was getting a little freaked out and trembling, and she didn't even know about the blue flash stuff. So it was just something that you just bit your tongue, you know. I've seen a few documentaries in the past or news articles with people's accounts of UFOs, and there seems to be a real consistency with the first one that I've seen, with the oblong head and long fingers. I didn't see its eyes or its face because it was facing away from me, but you could kind of see the same, where it had to have some kind of big eyes, because you could kind of see the outline of a brow sticking out a little bit on the sides. On the left side I could see. So yeah, seeing some of the images where people draw what they've seen, that's caught my attention a few times, and I can totally relate to them. And I feel bad for some of them because they get ridiculed by friends or family or the church or just people in general that don't understand that, hey, sometimes there's stuff that you just can't explain. I think we might find out one day. Hopefully in my lifetime we find out. You know, there could be interdimensional portholes. There, you know, light year travel, space time stuff. You know, it's not comic book stuff. It's science, right? So I'm alive. I'm well. I've got a great family. So I don't think they meant to cause any harm, you know, with my experiences. Otherwise, I don't think my life would be the way it is now. I know I've had an experience with my own children at a cottage when we saw a bright orb coming over us and then lit us up and disappeared. And I know it's something they'll never forget. A lot of people, I think, are starting to accept it a lot more now too, just because of some of the more recent news involving UFO sightings. Sometimes I think my aunt might have been right. It's like something bad was going to happen, and some heavenly, I'm not religious by any means, but you know, something that you can't explain came and helped out in that situation. Or could be evil things too, like the Ouija board. That just spoke pure evil to me, especially when it spelt the word out. I've talked to people that have had sightings, need be ghosts or UFO. I mean, even my own best friend's seen stuff, and he used to think I was crazy, but now he's like, no, if you can't explain it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Of course, there's the whole bunch of the fake ones out there, and that's usually the people that'll run out and try to talk about it right away and try to get their 15 seconds of fame for a hoax or something like that. But I know in my heart, I've had plenty of dreams. I've had weird dreams. I've had lots of trauma in my life. But those 3 things with the blue flash, I will never, ever forget, ever. Get off your phone, get off your laptop, stop watching TV, look up on a starry night. You'll see satellites, you'll see lots of things, and then you'll see stuff that'll make you go, yeah, some of those stories might be true.
Is this an experience that you'd hope to have happen again, or was once like those times enough?
I want it to happen again. I want to see it again.
I'd like to know what happened if that light, what it was gonna beam us up or something, or who knows what that light was gonna do. Or
I think the first time that we saw it, we were too excited. We were too scared.
nervous.
Too nervous. We didn't know what we were looking at. It was kind of terrifying when you don't know what you're looking at and you have something approaching you, startling you out of nowhere. But now I feel a little bit more relaxed with it. I think if it was to come back again, I'd be like, hey, down here, come over here, I'm over here. I'd love to see what it is. I'd like to really find out what exactly we saw that night.
Do you have any hopes of what it could be?
Well, I would say if it is something that is man-made, we better hope that it belongs to our country at least, because that would be a dangerous thing to be able to fly that fast with that much control. I don't see how it could be man-made though. It was so quiet, it was so quick. I can't even explain the speed of what we saw. It'd be like driving from Toronto to Mount Forest in a mere few seconds.
Yeah.
That's how fast this thing. It was literally, it looked like a star up in the sky, and then it would be literally right in front of your face.
Hovering and then just takes off. It's like, where did it go? It's just unexplainable. Even though, you try to figure it out, it's just, it baffles your mind. Just
Like I say, 13 years later, still can't figure it out. Still think about it. Still look up at the sky constantly.
Exactly.
Once you experience something like this, you just can't forget about it. You're always looking up to the sky to see what's next.
Yeah. Maybe we should just take our car back out and see if it comes back or something like that.
Set up a launcher here
Yeah.
in the backyard for about the next 2 months. I took up a night duty basically. I'd come out as soon as it got dark and I would just stare up at the sky all night, hoping to see it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Saw a lot of interesting things. I gotta say, I saw a lot of interesting things, but I'd say most things that you'd be able to explain, whether it be a plane, a helicopter, a satellite, a meteor, nothing that looked anything like what we seen the night of our first experience. But it definitely had me so overblown of what I seen the first night, that I couldn't stop but keep looking up. I had to keep looking up. I had to find out what it was that I seen, and to this day, still no answer.
I think it's a really one of a kind experience. So people that have had this experience, a lot of people are perhaps a little scared to talk about it. But nowadays, more and more people are talking about experiences like this. So we know that we're not the only ones that have seen things that we just can't explain.
Right.
And I think everyone should feel kind of open to be able to share their experiences with other people, and maybe one day we'll be able to figure out these things.
And let them know that they're not crazy. If they see things like this in the sky, you know what? You're not crazy.
You can come join the crazy family.